Okay, hi, hello, and welcome back to my channel. I am in a different space, obviously, as you can see. That is because I am house sitting, well, more like kind of plant sitting for one of my friends who is out of town. So yeah, it's really quiet here, so I was like, okay, this is like a really good place to film something and just sit down and have a chat. The next question is, why am I sitting on the floor? I don't really know how this happened. I just kind of sat down and my arms are comfy and I put a pillow down, so I'm feeling cozy here. Yeah, on the floor, but whatever, it's fine, right? Okay, so the title of this, yeah, Attacked in Atlanta. People are probably like, oh yeah, this is so fake, like, did not happen. I can assure you it did. So it was a really just like strange situation. Um, it was, I think, like a year ago when I was working at my last job. So what I would do is I would go to trade shows here and there and help sell the brand's products. And so in this particular trade show, I was in Atlanta, and it was the last night of the show. So I had like finished up, I closed down the showroom, and I didn't have to go back the next day. So I was like, okay, I'll treat myself and go to like maybe like a nice bar or like a restaurant or something. And then I remembered that actually in Atlanta, in the Westin, there is this hotel, and at the very top of the hotel, they have like a restaurant or like a bar, and it really slowly spins. I think it takes like an hour and a half to fully spin, so you're not going like fast up there while you're at the bar, but it does spin, and you have like a really nice view of the city, and it's just like a really pretty. You're way up at the top, so it's just like a cool place to go. So it's like, okay, perfect. I've worked all week and I'm ready to go have some fun and at least have like a drink or like a good meal or something. So, anyways, I get to the hotel, and I wasn't staying here. So I was like walking into the lobby, and I can remember I was talking to my friend um, on the phone when I was on my way in. Shout out to Paige. And I think I was like maybe not paying attention. I mean, I definitely wasn't paying attention, but I was just kind of like going about my business. It was like maybe 7 o'clock at night. Like it was like pretty early. Like it was still sunny. It wasn't dark or anything. Um, and this is also like a pretty safe area. Unfortunately, there are homeless people, and their homeless population, I guess, is pretty big. But I had never ever felt like scared or nervous or anything. And I had been to Atlanta many times before this. So, anyways, I'm walking into the lobby of the hotel, and the last thing I remember, like after everything was normal, was this like weird pain at the side of my head, like a sharp shooting pain right here. And I remember my vision was blurry, and I was like, what is going on? So I like turn and I see this woman like slowly walk by me, and she goes, that's what you get for bumping into me. And I was like, what? And then my head starts to hurt more. I start to get like queasy. I was like, what just happened? And I see, like, it sounds so stupid, but I see, those like hard hat helmets for like construction workers. They're like yellow, maybe like blue, orange, the hard ones that you put right here and they like walk around. So I see one of those like rolling away from me, like on the floor, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, did she just like throw this helmet at my head? And I remember being like so confused and like kind of like slowly swearing at this woman and be like what the F is going on? Like what's happening? And she's like, it's slow motion, like in my memory, because it was like so bizarre and like caught me like so much off guard. And so she was like walking out, and then the security guard is standing, like, this is a nice hotel. It's like 4 or 5 stars. The security guard is like standing there, like jaw open. He's like just staring at the situation, and I'm like, are you gonna step in and do something? Like clearly something just happened. So this woman is like gone now, and the security guard is like, oh, are you okay? And I'm like, no, like she just threw this helmet at me. And he was like, oh yeah, she also punched you. So apparently she threw, the helmet at my head and also punched me in the temple, um, and then walked out because I bumped into her, and I don't even remember that. And if I did bump into her, it was like maybe, when you pass someone and you like touch their shoulder by accident, you're not like slamming into them. So it's not like I like knocked her over, like I maybe like bumped her. So I guess that set her off, you know. And then, so, anyways, back in the situation, and the security guard is like, I'm so sorry this happened. Like, she's been a problem. She comes in here. So, like, this is not the first time they've seen this woman. So I'm sitting here, like, so confused. My head is pounding. I'm, like, alone in this, like, city, you know, that's, like, thousands of miles away. I was living in Connecticut at the time. So it's, like, no family, like, no one else I was working with was there. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? So then finally, like, the cops come and he's like, oh, what happened? Whatever. And I mean, I get it. It's not like the biggest crime to happen that day, obviously, but it took them 30 minutes to get there. And I was like, what the hell? Like, obviously she's gone. You're never going to find her. What's the point of even talking to me about this? So that was really annoying. It took so long. And like the hotel security, like this one guard was like helping me, but just like chatting with me really. And like was like, he brought me ice, which was nice, but like, it's not like a hotel manager like ever came out and was like, you know, are you okay? Like, what happens? Like, that didn't happen at all. So I'm like sitting here and I'm like, I call my friend back and I'm like crying on the phone and like explain the story. It was like kind of funny. I remember like her like laughing because it sounds like so nuts. And I was like trying to call my family, but like they weren't picking up. And so then I was like, okay, well, I should probably get like an MRI or something. Like this woman like punched me. I've never been like in a fight. I've never been like assaulted before. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll go to maybe like the ER and just like get an MRI and like a scan on my brain. And so then I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll do this. And I'm like, I'm not gonna take an ambulance because like it's gonna be an extra like $1,000 for nothing. And I'm like in the middle of the city, so I'm like, okay, there's gotta be a hospital like pretty close. And so I remember when I was on my phone, like Ubering to the hospital, I was like, okay, like there's like 2 or 3 hospitals like in the area. Like I'll just pick this one. It's fine. This was a mistake. I should have literally just asked anybody like which hospital to go to, or I should have asked or Googled, you know, best hospital in the area, because what I encountered later made the story like so much worse. Okay, just a quick intermission. We need a wine break. So if you have a drink or wine with you, have a sip. It's time. Okay, so where was I? So I get to the hospital. It looks pretty normal from the outside, but I walk in the sliding doors, and I was like, oh my gosh, you're kidding. There was like, this is, you know, not meant to be rude to any population. This is just how I felt in my experience. But there was many homeless people, many, you know, people who you could definitely tell were living on the streets. A lot of people who looked like they were on drugs when I got into like the lobby section. You know, drunk people. It was like very much of a very specific crowd here, and I'm like, okay, I don't fit in here at all. I feel even more uncomfortable. My head is hurting even more, and I don't feel safe. So I'm like, you know, walking around all these like people who, it seems like most of them didn't really need to be in the ER. It was more so maybe they were looking for a place to sleep, or, you know, they know if they come here and like complain about something, they're not going to get kicked out. I don't know. I'm not speaking for everybody, but that was 100% the case for at least a couple of the people. And finally I make it to the front desk and I'm like explaining my story to them, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, okay, fill this paperwork out and sit over there. So I'm like filling this out. Keep in mind, I'm like holding my head with ice on my head. I'm like writing this thing, and then there's like psycho people all around me. So I'm feeling so unsafe, and my family still has not, you know, talked to me, or I haven't talked to them because I don't even know. I guess everybody was busy, too busy for this dramatic story. And so I'm sitting there. I think I waited for like at least an hour to see a doctor. So then the nurse is like, when she finally calls my name, you know, I talk to her for a little while, explain the whole thing. And then she's like, okay, we're going to go see the doctor. I'm like, finally, great. It's been an hour, you know, whatever. And at this point, I'm like getting annoyed, like, you know, from the beginning of the bad situation to now, like nobody has really like stepped up and like really acted like they cared all that much. Like everybody was like, oh, okay, whatever. Like I was like, what the hell? This is so stupid. So anyways, I'm like, finally, I'm going to see a doctor. She's like, oh, we're having some renovations down on the hospital. I'm like, okay. So she's like, we have to go outside. And I'm like, what? Who the hell is going to treat me or see me outside? It's like, okay. So she like goes out to where I came in, like in the lobby entrance, and we're outside, and then she like turns a corner, and then there's this like tent thing, and like almost like a mobile like hospital, like as if it was like just set up, you know, in like a third world country, it seemed like, or something. And I'm like, what? So we walk in this like hospital tent, and they're like, yeah, we're seeing patients out here right now. And I'm like, what? This is like so bizarre. So I like sit down on this like weird like chair that's like lifted up onto the side, and I wait there for like 10 or 15 minutes. The doctor finally comes over. He wasn't very like welcoming, or like didn't really ask me what was going on. He was just like, what hurts, kind of. And then I like explained it to him. He's like, oh, there's not that much we can do. And I'm like, do you want to do like a scan or something and make sure there's not like damage? Or I don't know, I've never, you know, been in a fight or like been attacked or anything. Like, I don't know what to do. And I'm still feeling foggy, so I don't know if this is like something that could really, you know, be a harmful thing to me, like long term. So he's like, okay. And in the end, he just hands me 2 Tylenol. And I'm like, not even Advil? I could have gone to the CVS down the corner and done this all myself and saved like an hour and a half and saved the cost of hospital bills. I was like, this is so stupid, so beyond. So I'm finally like, whatever, like what else can I do? So I leave the hospital, I go back to my hotel. I finally get in touch with my mom and like talk to her about this. And that's like pretty much the story. In the end, the hotel, the Westin, did give me 2 free nights to stay there, and they also paid for my hospital bill. Keep in mind, my insurance covered like most of it, so they paid I think $120 or $150, something like that. The whole situation was just like ridiculous. And then to get those 2 free nights, I had to like call them and email this guy multiple times, and I'm like, can you do any better than 2 free nights? I was literally assaulted in your lobby, and your security did nothing about it. No one was like checking on me. No one tried to help me get to the hospital. Like people like weren't helpful. And this is like a scary situation. So I was like, does this happen often? And he's like, oh, no, it doesn't. And I'm like, okay. So the whole thing was ridiculous. And that's my story of being attacked in Atlanta. But yeah, I hope that provided you with, you know, just a little bit of something to distract you, I guess. Yeah, I don't think there's really many lessons in this story. I think the only lesson that I would really say is check the hospital. You know, do a little bit of research before you go to a hospital. Obviously, if you're getting like a cosmetic surgery done or like a serious like surgery done, you look for a doctor and like, you know, make sure that they're well vetted, they have good reviews, maybe someone referred you to them. But even when you're going to a hospital in like a different area, whether it's like in the US or out, or, you know, maybe you're on vacation or something, like look up the hospital, because it turns out the one that I went to was like the worst in the area. So I could have easily gone to a better hospital if I had just looked it up. So that's the only thing that I would suggest, you know, for anybody else who's ever, you know, needing to go to an ER or see a doctor or something like that, when you're not in like your hometown or wherever you live. Do some research. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my story. Cheers. It's Sunday here, so I hope everybody's having a relaxing Sunday, and as stress-free as it can be. And I hope everyone's staying safe and staying well. Thanks for watching my video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.